Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. House Speaker Mike Johnson is a nice guy, but unfortunately we need more than a nice guy in office right now. Nice guys really do finish last, and we can't afford that. Literally. While it was nice to see Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz exercise some power over the establishment and kicking out McCarthy, he lacked the muscle in Congress to force through a better candidate, and so we're stuck with a McCarthy 2.0. The new speaker excitedly announced a bipartisan budget deal amounting to $1.7 trillion over the weekend. Johnson believes that this represents the most favorable budget agreement Republicans have achieved in over a decade. Daniel Horowitz, senior editor at The Blaze, responded today with, quote, "Where have we heard that bromide from GOP leaders before? 7 months ago, Johnson's predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, said his debt ceiling deal was the largest cut that Congress has ever voted on, even though it led to a $2.6 trillion increase in debt in a little over 6 months. Knowing that maybe Johnson's best in a decade hyperbole is an improvement. Sadly, no, it's the same Orwellian spending cut McCarthy forged. Worse, it locks in the McCarthy-Biden debt ceiling deal that led to the fastest expansion of the national debt in American history. After refusing to fight on his first budget deadline in November, then selling out his conference on the National Defense Authorization Act in December, Johnson has one goal in mind heading into the twin January 19th and February 2nd funding deadlines: avoid a government shutdown at all costs. Forget about the shutdown of our border, culture, economy, and liberty. In Johnson's estimation, we must keep every agency of this government funded no matter what. Well, when you telegraph the message to Democrats that you will not allow a single budget deadline to lapse or even an authorization deadline to lapse, such as with defense and FISA, not surprisingly, Republicans have no leverage. Democrats pretty much get everything they want every single time, end quote. As for the idea that this deal saves money for the American people, Horowitz has a rebuttal for that too. He explains, quote, "Johnson is using the oldest trick in the book to sell his conference on the deal by claiming he is cutting spending to offset the agreement top lines, avoiding automatic scheduled cuts. But the trouble is that the spending cuts are actually rescissions that claw back $6.1 billion in unspent pandemic aid and $20.2 billion in IRS funding. That's money that wasn't needed anyway, and we could have secured those savings for free. Following the principles of art of the deal, Democrats appropriated ungodly sums of money for 80,000 IRS agents in the 2022 Green New Deal bill, knowing it would be impossible to hire so many IRS workers even in their wildest dreams. This gave them ample negotiating room to give in on new spending while still expanding the IRS to alarming levels. Ditto for the original sums of pandemic cash. With interest on the debt now approaching $1.1 trillion a year and the Treasury Department slated to conduct more bond auctions than ever before, Johnson's deal is the debt crisis equivalent of spinning in an ocean," end quote. So while the battle over spending levels may have been lost, Republicans can still fight over exactly how to apportion the spending. But given their track record, I find it very unlikely that they will all of a sudden fight tooth and nail to defund Democrat priorities and to fund Republican ones like the border. Joining us now to discuss is Oren McIntyre, a host and columnist for Blaze Media. Oren, thanks for being here tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I think you had the perfect response to this. You argued on social media that the House GOP is committed to funding the government even as Democrats strip them off the ballot. Is that pretty much the state of the Republican Party right now?
Yeah, they have no real understanding of what it means to have any kind of real opposition. The entire reason that Congress was given the power of the purse was to limit the executive's ability to execute its vision if it was working against the interests of the American people. And the Republicans simply are unwilling to take that kind of action. As Daniel Horowitz pointed out, they will fund anything at any time. They don't understand how a government shutdown could even be possible or what it means to have a real budget process. So instead, we just continue to see these retrenchments where they claw back little bits of spending here and there. As the Democrats anchor the deal every time further and further out, all the Republicans can do is run behind them and clean up their mess.
And what's the big fear about the government shutdown anyway? Because, as Horowitz was, laying out there for us, that Republicans gave away all their leverage and saying, oh, don't worry, we're never going to do that. Well, then Democrats know, okay, well, then they kind of have the power in this game. I mean, what are Republicans so afraid of that the left's going to call us Nazis or something? I mean, they do that anyway, so might as well just move forward on this.